and welcome back to my channel. Today I am bringing you another installment in my series Book Recs for Writing, which is a series based on book recommendations for us writers and all of the little topics that we can have trouble with from time to time. And by reading these books, hopefully it will help us all improve our craft. Today I am going to be talking about atmosphere, and this is a little bit of a branch off of the last video I did, which was immersive worlds or immersive writing and stories in general. But I thought that atmosphere is such a broad topic that we could actually make an entire video on it itself. Now there are like an innumerable amount of atmospheric types of atmosphere that you can write in your book, but I found that there are like three main kinds, and those are horror or creepy atmospheres, whimsical or magical atmospheres, and then actual atmospheric weather vibe atmospheres. So as usual within those three categories, I have tried to split up adult, YA, and middle grade, so no matter what age category you are writing for, hopefully I have a recommendation that sounds pretty good to you. First of all, let's start with the creepy horror dark vibes, because I feel like within the market right now, that's kind of what's leading everything. Like, people are predicting that YA horror or YA dark fantasy is going to be like the new it girl. So yeah, let's give you a couple of recommendations for that. Now I'm going to go ahead and say I'm a pansy. I don't read adult horror or horror really in general, so I don't have that many actual like terrifying horror recommendations. Most of these are just going to be like a little bit creepy here and there. My first recommendation is going to be Night Film by Marissa Pessl. The quote on the front is from the Washington Post, and it actually says, "You'll miss your subway stop, let dinner burn, and start sleeping with the lights on." And honestly, I feel like that is a very accurate depiction of how you will be acting when you read this book, because I found it incredibly creepy and addicting. Quick synopsis: it is a mixed media format book about a girl who is found dead and they think it's from suicide. Her father is this like cult classic mysterious horror movie director, and so the case is kind of famous, and then this reporter who had like some nasty run-ins with the director is now trying to like crack open the case because he doesn't think she actually committed suicide. It's super creepy, very dark. The language that she uses, she just finds the perfect creepy adjectives and like verbs that really just give it a really good dark juicy vibe. Moving on to the only horror on this list and the start of my YA recommendations, and that is Dead House. Now, this is a straight up horror novel about a girl with some things going on. You're not really sure if it's like mental illness or like demonic stuff happening. She goes to this boarding school. There's some creepy stuff that goes on. These kids kind of like form a cult, do all of the weird things that dumb white people do in horror movies. Now this one is kind of like towing the border between horror and creepy, and that is Diviners by Libba Bray. Personally, I feel like the very first book in the series, The Diviners, is the scariest of all of them, but I know I've talked about this before and most people know about this. This is about a gang of teenagers in the 1920s that all have these mysterious abilities, and they are trying to get rid of this dark entity that is trying to do bad things in New York City. Now, a couple more YAs that fall in the creepy category. We have The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert. This is an excellent example of atmosphere. This is a book about a girl who lives with her mom, and they're on the run because some people are after them after her grandmother died, and her grandmother was this author of these creepy children's book fairy tale type things, and for some reason they are out to get her and her mother, and she just gets swept up in all of this darkness in the creepy fairy tale realm, and it's really atmospheric. Another recommendation that actually just came out yesterday is Wilder Girls by Rory Power. This book is about a group of girls quarantined on an island at their boarding school because their island has been overrun with this tox virus, and it is deforming the girls' bodies into horrible things. But just this sense that Rory Powers is able to create of this heaviness and foreboding and kind of like anxiety through this whole book is just amazing. I have no idea how she did it. She's super talented, obviously, and I think that this is a book that I'm gonna pick up a copy myself and just study it, because I would love to know how she elected that much emotion from me. It was great. And like I said, I don't read that many horror books, and I especially don't really read a lot of middle grade horror. So my only recommendation in the middle grade category is Night Books by A.J. White. This is a really cute story about a little chubby boy who's like kind of an outcast because he really loves horror and writing his own scary stories, but then he finds himself in his own scary story when he is kidnapped by an evil witch and has to find a way home. Moving on to the second category, we're going to talk about whimsical magical vibes, which is probably my favorite type of atmosphere. I actually had a really hard time finding any adult novels that elicit like a magical atmosphere, and the only one I could think of was The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. If you want to learn how to do atmosphere, read this book. Even if the plot, even if like 1890s time period doesn't sound great, or you don't care for circus books, you will learn so much from this. When I think of atmosphere, this is one of the first books that I think of. This is about two magicians that grow up, and it kind of tells their life story as they're pitted against each other, and they have to kind of like display their magical prowess in the middle of this fantastical, traveling, mysterious, dark circus. This is a very interesting novel because this is one of the only ones I've ever read that isn't character focused or plot focused. It's actually setting focused, which I think is extremely rare. But the effect is just, I mean, it's unlike anything you've ever read. That's why I always say this is the atmosphere book if you need to learn how to do atmosphere. Moving on to YA, I am quickly going to mention two of my favorite books that I never shut up about and that I hope you will eventually pick up because I need to talk about these books with someone. And that is The Disappearances by Emily Bain Murphy and The Spellbook of the Lost and Found by Moira Fowley Doyle. These are incredibly atmospheric, almost kind of, one is kind of creepy, one is kind of like light, soft, airy, whimsical magic. They're wonderful. Pick them up if you want to learn how to do atmosphere in YA. A couple other YA examples, funny enough, are both circus books. I don't know what it is with circuses, but they're really atmospheric. I have Carvel by Stephanie Garber. This is about a girl who wants to travel to this traveling, people say it's a circus, it's really not. It's like a traveling amusement park, kind of magical island. And then The Daughter of the Burning City by Amanda Foody. This is about a magical circus, and a girl lives in that circus and has magical powers to create these illusions, but her world is kind of shattered when one day one of her human illusions is murdered, and that is something she didn't know could happen. As for whimsical and magical middle grade, I mean, you could almost pull any middle grade. They're so great. Obviously Harry Potter is great. Some of my personal favorites are The School for Good and Evil, Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow, and The Dreadful Tale of Prosper Redding. I particularly love this book because it has a very Halloween-y atmosphere, which is wonderful. And the last category of atmosphere I'm going to talk about today is the weather or the physical atmosphere vibes. I love this. These are the type of books that evoke, like, if it's raining, you feel the rain on your skin. If it's cold, you feel like frostbitten. In adult, I am going to recommend The Bear, the Witch, and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. This is a Russian-inspired fantasy book about a girl who kind of is the conduit between the real world and the fantastical realm with all of the creatures. It takes place way up there in northern Russia where it's snowing all the time. The snow comes like all the way up to your waist. People are getting lost in the woods and like freezing to death, and you're cold. You need a sweater while you read. I know I recommend her all the time. You guys are probably sick of hearing me do this, but I'm gonna have to recommend Ruth Ware because she is so atmospheric in her writing. Even if you don't like her plots or her plot twists, you find them predictable or whatever, which is like a thing that I hear about her all the time. It's true. Like, I'm not gonna argue that. Sometimes her plot twists are predictable, but her writing is so atmospheric. I feel like I just learn so much about immersivity. Is that a word? Like really sinking your reader into the scene and what's happening and giving them the feels and the smells and the tastes for everything. Like, she is a master of this. Moving on to YA, we have The Wicked Deep by Shea Earnshaw, I believe. This is a nice summary read. A nice, like, we're gonna talk about Drowning Boys, but it's nice. This is a summary read about a group of witches that were killed around Salem witch trial era, but they made this curse so that they come back to land and possess the body of a girl every summer and basically use her to kill boys around the town as revenge. It takes place in like this sleepy summer island where it's always kind of wet and rainy and again sleepy. Actually, I just realized that all of my YA recommendations are island atmosphere books, which is funny. My next one is The Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater. This is about a girl who lives on a unnamed Irish-inspired island where there are these water horse creatures that come on land once a year, and there's this race where you have to lasso one of these killer water horses up and ride them through a race. Because it is so very character and atmosphere focused, it's a little bit slow, but again, the atmosphere is incredible. It just gives you like creepy, sleepy Irish island vibes. My last YA recommendation is The House of Salt and Sorrow by Aaron A. Craig. Now I know this isn't out until like next month and I am sorry for that, but for those of you who are reading after it comes out on like August 6th or whatever, it's like 12 Dancing Princesses meets Crimson Peak, about these girls who live on this creepy island again, and slowly each sister is being killed off, and one of the sisters has to figure out what's going on. And the very last one, which is a middle grade, is like basically the exact same thing but toned down for a middle grade audience, with The Stormkeeper Island by Catherine Doyle. This is about a little boy who has heard about this island his grandfather lives on ever since he was little. He's wanted to travel there, and when he finally gets there, he learns that there is more going on than meets the eye. The island seems to have magic of its own, but there is a dark force that is kind of suffocating the island's magic. So in conclusion, if you're writing an atmospheric island setting that's kind of creepy and kind of dark and kind of gloomy, your girl's gotcha. Read some of these books. All right, everyone, so those are all of my atmospheric recommendations. I hope if you read them, they help you out a lot. I know that I have gone through some of these myself and tabbed them up, and they have been so immensely helpful for me. Let me know down in the comments if you've read any of these books, or if you have any recommendations you think would fit the atmospheric category. I would love to know. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!